Hello summoners and welcome back to another episode of our community coaching series. Making good decisions is just as important as having clean mechanics. So today, we're going to be looking over a series of games to go over some macro play. Remember to send in your replays using the Google form link in the description down below for a chance to be featured in our next video. Also, I want to mention that ProGuides.com has challenger level coaches available on the website 24/7 to optimize your gameplay. There's a lot to cover, so let's just jump right into it. We'll look at the first game from Jin's perspective, where we'll learn how to punish mistakes and properly push our leads. The first thing that we see is that Caitlyn started her trap. This means she actually loses a lot of her pushing potential. Jin should have pushed the wave here, but he didn't recognize that Caitlyn made a mistake by starting with her traps. Right here, Jin misses the opportunity to queue a minion to push the wave and potentially poke Caitlyn. In the first 15 seconds of the lane, Jin played too passively and was afraid of Caitlyn even though she had no Q. He can trade auto for auto with her, and normally he'd be afraid of her because she can get the first auto with her range advantage, then Q while Jin starts to attack, but that's not the case right now. While this may not seem like a big deal, let's break down why it is. Some champions like Caitlyn do rely heavily on their ability to push in the wave. When the wave is pushing into Caitlyn, she has a difficult time looking for poke because there is a minion wave disadvantage, and she won't be able to push back the wave if she's focused on poking. Capitalizing on a mistake like this allows Jin to neutralize Caitlyn's win condition and come out with leads he wouldn't have if the matchup was played properly in a sense. As the lane progresses on, Pyke eventually sets up a kill on Caitlyn. Jin ends up missing his root and probably felt tilted because she was stunned. He burns heal in an attempt to cover his mistake and go for the kill. It's important for us to realize two things when we make mistakes. First off, everyone makes them, so don't feel tilted. Yes, it can be frustrating, but you still have the rest of the game to make other plays. No one plays a perfect game. When we make mistakes, it's the best to just cut our losses. In the same way that we wouldn't want to waste flash trying to escape a situation when we're 100% dead, we don't want to waste summoner spells to push for kills we won't get. Moving forward, Jin picks up a few more kills, but makes a mistake with his wave management. Here he recalls because he has money to spend. Caitlyn is extremely behind, so Jin has lane priority, meaning that he can control the wave. Since he does, he's missing the opportunity to push in the wave all the way in before he resets. By doing this, the wave will be pushing back to him when he gets back to lane. He could use the wave's position to then push for more kills or zone. In situations when we're behind or expect a team fight coming soon, it would be fine to reset based off of gold, but when we're ahead, we should almost always be resetting based off of wave management. When we pull ahead of our opponents, we have the power to dictate everything. Like raising a plant, it's our own responsibility to ensure we continue to properly grow the leads that we have. One thing we should always do is play around our champion's strengths. In this next game, we'll be talking about this while watching one of our users jungle with Kayn. As we look through this game, let's pay attention to which camps we're farming. Kayn's biggest strength is how effective he is at clearing all the jungle camps. He has a strong AoE clear that is also effective against solo camps and can path very quickly through the jungle by walking through walls with E. If you haven't already, you can check out some other videos on our channel where we cover some new OP jungle routes and champions to make you a better jungler. To start the game off, Kayn begins a standard jungle clear, starting at red and eventually clearing to his bot side jungle. After blue, he ganks Yasuo, who is full health. He's pushed up, so it's okay to look for this gank, and Kayn could have gotten a flash or a kill if he had played it a bit better. Since Yasuo can dash through targets, the best approach is from the side instead of directly behind him. When he dashes, he'll always dash sideways instead of towards his turret. The other issue is that Kayn used his Q when he didn't have to. It's always better to save your gap closers until Yasuo dashes away or to chase them down. If we can close the distance by just walking, we should opt to do that instead. Just start ganks by auto attacking with red buff for the slow. From there, Kayn paths towards bottom. Ganking when our laners are low is usually very risky. However, bot lane communicates that Jin has no summoner spells, so this gank is okay to go for. Kayn then decides to gank mid and get Yasuo's flash, and then he paths all the way to bottom to gank bottom lane. This gank bot is ambitious because the wave is so close to the turret and their bot lane is healthy. Kayn walks in, gets chunked, and doesn't get anything out of it, making the gank unsuccessful. When jungling, one skill we need to have is the ability to commit to one side of the map. While it would be great to help all of our laners all of the time, this isn't the most efficient way for us to path. To maximize pressure and farm, we want to instead look to farm our camps towards the lanes we want to commit to, that way we don't sacrifice farm for ganks. If we go to bottom lane, we want to start our jungle clear in the bottom side, that means our top camps will still be up. This opens them up to be counter jungled and also means that we aren't efficient. By clearing camps, we start their spawn timers all over again, maximizing the gold potential and XP we get from them. At this point of the game, Kayn should look to make the decision to place his pressure bot in mid. Since Yasuo and Jhin have used their flashes, these lanes are where he'll have the highest opportunity of getting kills on ganks. Since he's also running Electrocute, it makes sense for him to gank bottom for his blue form. By deciding to commit bottom, Kayn will then be able to start Krugs after each reset and then path all the way down, looking for gank opportunities mid or bot while he clears. At 840, a huge teamfight breaks out, and Kayn plays it pretty poorly. To start off, when he's 2v2ing Yasuo and Yi, he ends up using his ult ineffectively. Yasuo is already extremely low, and his team would have had no issue finishing the kill. Not having his ult then forces him to play more conservatively for the rest of the fight, and there were many other times where it would have been more useful. After he resets from base, Kayn again makes a mistake by pathing to Gromp instead of Krugs. He could have gotten more farm by farming downward and then ganking bot again. Instead, he misses the opportunity walking around when he has camps up, and then he has to path again upwards towards farming. Jungle pathing was one of the biggest issues for this game. In the first 8 minutes, Kayn didn't clear the Krugs a single time. The Krugs provide the most gold, so try to clear this camp every time it's up. Going back to how he started, he cleared red, raptors, wolves, blue, and then he ganked mid. Off of his reset, he ran back to red, skipping his Krugs. The other issue was that too many of his ganks didn't reward him and wasted his time. This came down to mechanics as well as the likelihood of ganks that he went for. Time is the most important thing for junglers, and it's a role that impacts the game through tempo and playmaking. Any time wasted is crucial time lost in setting up plays. By playing around Kayn's strengths, he could have easily cleared the jungle first and then looked for ganks while he was waiting for his camps to spawn. Even if the ganks weren't successful, he would be using the extra time that he had because of his fast clear. Instead, Kayn spent that extra time on ganks that could have been spent pathing towards his next camps or resetting. In this next game, we're going to go back to the bottom lane with a pretty fun pick, support Rammus. Doing his best Alicopter impression, one of our users does a great job of roaming, and we want to help clean up his gameplay that's already conceptually excellent. Jumping right into the start of the lane, Ezreal is getting chunked out, so Rammus does a good job of not trying to force any fights. The enemy team isn't pushing the lane and instead lets the wave push in. This is great since Rammus and Ezreal can now contest the lane, but they should look to ward. We don't suggest starting Sweeper as a support. Staying safe in the early game is hard with less wards. The duration on the warding trinket is so short in the early game, so it's beneficial to have at least 2 in the bottom lane early on. You can transition into Sweeper after you've completed your support item or at least getting a pink from your first base. Regardless, he's doing an excellent job of playing with this wave. With this wave stacking, it makes it difficult for Rammus' opponents to look for trades and will open up roam opportunities for him when he gets the wave to crash in. With that same concept in mind, Rammus roams mid with his jungler once the wave has crashed and he successfully snags a kill on Yasuo. In the same way that Rammus had pressure with his minion wave, he needs to respect his opponent's waves as well. Here the enemy wave is building, so he knows that his opponents are going to have a strong window to look to fight him. In these situations, we need to be ready to back off as the wave gets cleared. Nautilus places a ward on Rammus and he tries to sweep it, forgetting about the wave. Nautilus punishes Rammus for this and he could have gotten the kill if he ran Ignite. Even though Rammus gets out, getting chunked like this was not necessary. He could have avoided it by just respecting the wave. Since he's low, Rammus chooses to base. After he gets back, Rammus looks to roam mid, scoring another kill and places a control ward in the river. This control ward is especially good because it serves 2 purposes. It makes it easier to gank Yasuo who just wasted flash, and it helps control the river while Infernal Dragon is on the board. The game lulls out a bit, but eventually after some shenanigans, a teamfight in the bottom lane breaks out, which ends up going great for us. Rammus decides to roam mid again, but there's some things we need to talk about here. There are some micro errors and issues in risk assessment during this play. Rammus' team does not have vision of Wukong, and the enemy bot lane has priority since he left Ezreal alone 1v2. That means that if he didn't finish off this play quickly, he will get collapsed on and potentially throw the lead he's built so far. He starts by queuing into Yasuo, but then he makes a mistake by taunting too early. Since LeBlanc has a lot of ground to cover to catch up, it's best that Rammus ensures she has enough time to arrive. Since Yasuo can win wall LeBlanc's abilities, it would have been best to taunt when LeBlanc is in range, that way Yasuo cannot win wall. Rammus ends up taunting too early when he could have waited to see if Yasuo was going to fight him or not, giving LeBlanc more time to come back. After Yasuo blocks LeBlanc's abilities, the best play would have been to give up on this fight. If there was a losable fight this game, it would have been this one, since LeBlanc and Rammus have used all of their abilities and their opponents could have looked to turn. While this fight turns out fine for Rammus, it was partially due to opponents misplaying and Yasuo not queuing early enough to finish off Rammus at the end. Going 1-for-1 here would have been bad, as it would have given losing opponents gold and opportunities to get back into the game for no reason. Trying to continue choking out his enemies with pressure, Rammus decides to roam top lane. However, this roam is not a good one. The reason this is bad is because of where the top lane wave is. The wave ends up sitting at the enemy turret and then freezes right outside of it. To commit to this roam, it would have taken too much time and Ezreal would have been punished for it. While it is the bottom laner's responsibility to respect their support's decision to roam by not dying, we need to make sure it's always worth it. Our roams need to get us more than what our bottom laner misses out on by minimizing the time it takes and also making sure the probability of success is high. Instead, Rammus would have been better off just laning with Ezreal, then resetting back to base for a roam when the wave was in a better spot for him to gank. He ends up getting a lot, but remember that we need to analyze our decisions objectively, not by just the results when we're trying to improve. Overall though, this was not a poorly played game, not in the slightest. It was very well played, and most of the mistakes were either mechanical microplay errors or just a quick lapse in judgment. However, it's important to remember wave pressure and consistently playing around it. Roams are a great way to carry games, but we also need to make sure that we assess the best way of doing so efficiently. We covered a lot today, so let's recap. When our opponents make mistakes, we must be ready to capitalize on them, especially when it allows us to take priority. When we're playing ahead, the ball is in our court, and we need to continue pushing those leads forward. We can do this with proper wave management and constantly assessing the risk of any plays that we choose to go for. When we're jungling or play champions that impact the game through tempo leads or ganking, we need to make sure that the ganks we go for have a high probability of succeeding. A gank that doesn't reward us is much worse than not ganking at all, because we could be farming or setting up our next play elsewhere. And finally, roams are a good way to carry games and get the most out of them. We need to choose times when our waves are pushed, or we won't lose much for going for them. That's all we have to cover today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, check out our other guides on our channel. If you're interested in improving faster though, also check out ProGuides.com for courses by pro players and our partners designed to help you take your game to the next level. Good luck on the Rift, and we hope you improve from this video and ProGuides.com, and we'll see you all next time.